This is KGW News at noon.
Well, the Portland area is on its way to a record high temperature for the day. It'll actually be the fourth straight day that the city hits at least 70 degrees. As we take this live look from all around the area this afternoon, 4 different spots, and it is still worth noting. Today is still wintertime. Spring is very close, though. In fact, it officially arrives tomorrow. So we say thanks for joining us here for the news at noon. I'm Drew Carney, right alongside Rod Hill, who's tracking that change of seasons for us. So, Rod, it is the last day of winter, but it sure feels like spring.
Yeah, no doubt, which begs the question, do you really want to change seasons right now that we finally got winter figured out? Drew mentioned this will be the fourth consecutive day of hitting 70 or better, going back to Friday when it was 71, Saturday 76. Yesterday, St. Patty's Day, 76. Now, yesterday actually tied the record for the date, that's 76. The record for today's date, considerably lower, 71 back in 1988. And I'm forecasting us right back up into the mid-70s. So we really feel like today it's a slam dunk that we would break that mark. And again, along with the sun is the fact that this is the longest dry streak we have had since the last week of November. It's been quite a while. Where are we at noon? We are at 61 degrees, certainly on pace to warm up another 10 to 15 degrees this afternoon, which would get us back up into that 76 degree range. Elsewhere, it's 67 in Tigard, 61 in Oregon City, Battlegrounds at 62, Sandy's the same, Dallas is at 63 degrees. We showed you Cannon Beach to start the show, but we do have clouds down in Lincoln County. This is Lincoln City from Schnook Casino Resort Cam. The forecast expects these clouds to back off, but certainly not a guarantee. It's comfortable though. 60 is the temperature in Lincoln City, even with the cloud cover. There's Portland's expected a record high today of 76. Noticeable changes, raindrops. That returns Wednesday. Your 7-day forecast is coming out.
All right, Rob, we look forward to that here in a few minutes. Topping our local news headlines this afternoon, some customers in Northeast Portland are without power right now after a truck hit a power pole. PBOT tweeted out this picture. They say the power is out on Northeast Sandy between Northeast 105th and 122nd Avenues. A reminder for drivers, you should treat any intersection without a working signal as an all-way stop. One man is dead after a shooting that happened just before midnight last night across the street from the downtown Portland Library. Officers say they found the man in the street at Southwest 10th and Yamhill and gave him first aid until an ambulance arrived. The man was taken to the hospital, but that's where he was pronounced dead. Police haven't released any other details about the man and also haven't said if they've arrested anyone. Portland police did make an arrest over the weekend, though, after a deadly stabbing on the Steel Bridge. Police say this happened on Friday, and they found the suspect on Saturday as he was threatening someone else with a knife. He was arrested and charged with manslaughter in the second degree and unlawful use of a weapon. Investigators believe he was fighting with the man that he allegedly stabbed and killed on Friday, right there along the bridge's pedestrian pathway. We spoke to people who were out and about near the Steel Bridge over the weekend.
At least a couple times a week I come here, but maybe I don't know. I'm not going to stop going on the trails, but it just makes me feel unsafe.
Anyone with information about this stabbing is asked to contact Portland police. There was a really scary moment during yesterday's Shamrock Run when a drunk driver went through the event barricades and nearly hit one of the runners near Southwest Barber Boulevard and Hamilton Street. Police say 62-year-old Brian Roan was driving that car. They wound up arresting him in the parking lot of a nearby Fred Meyer. They also found open alcohol in his car. We're also hearing from a TriMet rider this afternoon who says they were assaulted on a bus last month. KGW's Ashley Graham spoke to the man, who also told Ashley he doesn't think TriMet is doing enough to protect its passengers.
Oscar Ortiz regularly commutes on TriMet. In February, he was on bus 77.
I was on my way to work.
He saw a man smoking at the back of the bus and decided to tell the driver.
I said, I think there is somebody smoking in the bus. I went back to my seat.
Ortiz says the man who was smoking walked up to him, and because of what happened next, he was too nervous to show his face on camera.
He called me names. He called me He spat on me.
Ortiz, who's a gay man, was in shock.
My mind got fixated on that word. Nothing else mattered at that point.
Then he said the man punched him in the face.
Tell the driver and say, call the police.
This is a photo of the man. Multnomah County Sheriff's deputies are still looking for him. The man walked away. Then Ortiz said a few minutes later, he came back and punched him again before leaving the bus. Ortiz says he was disoriented. The TriMet driver asked him if he needed medical attention.
And I say, I don't need an ambulance, but I do think they need some type of help. I need help.
But didn't call 911. Ortiz still doesn't understand why. TriMet says the driver did call their operations command center and asked Ortiz if he needed an ambulance. A spokesperson said that Ortiz indicated he did not need medical attention, and the operator verified comments Mr. Ortiz was making that Mr. Ortiz planned to call 911 directly. That's when he stepped off the bus at 102 in Halsey and called police himself.
It made me feel like I don't count.
While he's concerned that his attacker is still on the streets, he's even more worried about TriMet's safety protocols.
I want for people to know when they are in the bus, they are practically on their own.
TriMet says they follow the direction of the rider. If they don't have visible injuries or they choose to call 911 on their own, the driver doesn't call for help.
I kind of feel like a TriMet should change some things.
According to TriMet, assaults related to the transit system decreased 59% from 2022 to 2023. Still, a TriMet survey shows riders are worried about safety. Last October, 8 in 10 riders said other riders' behavior is the reason they feel unsafe on board.
I have seen other people get punched. I have seen other people get hurt, but I never expected to actually be the person that gets hurt.
Ashley Grams, KGW News.
Well, a beautiful weekend weather-wise was also a dangerous weekend for hikers in the gorge and a busy one for rescue crews. On Saturday night, 2 women called 911 to say they were trapped on a cliff just east of Multnomah Falls. Search and rescue teams used a drone to pinpoint exactly where those 2 women were.
The terrain we got into was very, very steep. We had hundreds of feet of rope with us that we could have used to rappel, but there was way too much vegetation. It was all briars and thorns.
Before rescue teams actually reached them, the 2 women did manage to hike out on their own right around 10 o'clock Sunday morning. Another incident, though, on Friday did not end as well. The Multnomah County Sheriff's Office says a 61-year-old woman was found dead around noon at the bottom of a cliff near Horsetail Falls. They haven't released her name yet, though, and haven't told us exactly how she died. All right, let's turn to some national headlines this afternoon. Former President Donald Trump is facing backlash over comments he made at a campaign rally over the weekend. The former president described a bloodbath if he's not reelected. For more on this, here's NBC's Garrett Hake.
Donald Trump on the attack this weekend in Ohio, lashing out at some of his favorite targets, from the criminal cases against him.
It's all politics. It's all coming in from Biden.
To what he claims are the criminal migrants crossing the southern border and destroying the country.
They're not people, in my opinion, but I'm not allowed to say that because the radical left says that's a terrible thing to say. These are animals, okay?
But it was his use of the word bloodbath during a riff about Chinese car makers that's creating new headlines and headaches for his campaign.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
The Biden campaign seizing on the remark and rejecting the Trump campaign's claim that it was about only cars.
The idea that they're going to be able to spin their way out of this today is ridiculous because every single day Donald Trump is promoting and endorsing and encouraging political violence on the stump.
Elected Republicans largely shrugging off the comment, including Mr. Trump's former VP turned rival Mike Pence, who has said he will not endorse his former boss's re-election campaign.
I see him departing from the mainstream conservative agenda that has defined the Republican Party over the last 40 years.
Meanwhile, the Biden campaign announcing a record fundraising haul of $53 million in February, leaving the campaign flush with $155 million in the bank. On Saturday night, the president attending Washington's white tie gridiron dinner, joking about both real and fictitious accomplishments, including, quote, rigging the Super Bowl for Taylor Swift. The 81-year-old also cracking a joke that his 10 p.m. speech came, quote, 6 hours past my bedtime.
Again, that was Garrett Hake reporting for us this afternoon. Meanwhile, in Europe, France says it will ask Russia to observe a ceasefire in its war with Ukraine during this summer's Paris Olympics. France's president made those remarks in an interview over the weekend. Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson responded by urging France to stop giving weapons to Ukraine. Today, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Russia was ready for talks on a French proposal for a ceasefire during the Olympics, but would need to take Russia's interests on the front line into account. Well, the brackets are set for March Madness. We're going to start on the men's side here this afternoon. Oregon got an automatic spot after winning the Pac-12 tournament over the weekend. The Ducks will now face 6th-seeded South Carolina on Thursday afternoon. 3 other Pac-12 teams also made the big dance. Arizona is a 2 seed, Washington State is a 7 seed, and Colorado will have to beat Boise State in a play-in game in order to advance. Let's talk about the women's side now. Oregon State clinched a 3 seed and will face Eastern Washington. The Portland Pilots, they got an automatic bid after they beat Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference Championship game last week. They're going to face Kansas State in the first round. A record-tying 7 Pac-12 teams made the big dance. We already mentioned Oregon State. How about 2 seed Stanford? Beaverton native Cameron Brink, the star of that team, of course. They're going to face Norfolk State in the opening round of the tournament.